I never thought my greatest act of love would become the weapon used to destroy me. I remember the beeping of the hospital machines, the sterile white walls, the smell of antiseptic, and her, Lena, holding my hand, eyes filled with tears. "You're saving my life," she said, and I believed her. We were married 6 years by then. Not a perfect marriage, sure, but solid. We laughed together. We fought like normal couples do. We made plans for the future. A house with a garden, maybe a dog, and someday, kids, though her health made that harder. Then the kidney failure came. She was on the transplant list for months with no match. Watching her grow weaker day by day was torture. When the doctors said I was a compatible donor, I didn't hesitate for a second. People called me a hero. Family, friends, even her co-workers. But I didn't do it for praise. I did it because I loved her. Because when you love someone, you don't count the cost. You give. You give until there's nothing left. They scheduled the surgery. I signed the paperwork. I wrote a letter to her, just in case, and I went under, trusting her with everything I had. When I woke up, she was already recovering in another room. The nurse smiled at me. "She's doing great," she said. "You saved her life." I nodded, groggy from the anesthesia, but inside I felt something else. Something quiet, but unsettling. A flicker. Something was about to change. Recovery was hard, not just physically, but emotionally too. They don't tell you how strange it feels to walk around knowing a part of you is now living inside someone else, especially when that someone starts avoiding eye contact. Lena came home a week after me. I'd rearranged the house for her recovery, extra pillows, soft meals, her favorite candles, but she barely noticed. She didn't hold my hand anymore. She barely touched me. At first, I told myself it was the meds, the fatigue, the pain. Of course she needed time. Of course she was adjusting. But something had shifted. She stopped saying, "I love you" at night. She left the room when I entered it. And her phone, God, her phone, was always in her hand. Face down when I walked in. Password changed. Notifications muted. I asked her once, gently, "Is everything okay?" She smiled. "I'm just tired, Adrian." But her eyes weren't tired. They were elsewhere. It happened by accident. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. Lena had left her tablet charging in the kitchen. She was in the shower. A notification popped up. Just a message preview. From a name I didn't recognize. Nate. It said, "So she finally gave it to you. Damn, she really went through with it." My stomach dropped. I didn't touch the tablet, didn't open it, didn't need to, because that message told me everything I hadn't wanted to believe. This wasn't just distance. This was betrayal. I walked outside. It was raining. I stood in the yard like an idiot, soaked, breathing like I had just run 10 miles. My wife, the woman I'd almost died to save, had given a part of me to someone else, literally. And whoever Nate was, he knew about it before I did. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, trying to remember every time she said she loved me, every time she promised we were forever, and wondered when she started lying. 3 days later, she handed me an envelope. No tears, no warning, just a manila envelope, like it was a utility bill. "It's better this way," she said quietly. Inside, divorce papers, signed, filed, final. I asked, "Is this about Nate?" She didn't answer, just looked away and whispered, "I'm sorry." But her eyes weren't sorry. They were tired, almost relieved, like a weight had been lifted. I was the weight. I didn't sign them right away. Not because I wanted her back. No, that illusion was gone. I wanted to understand. So I called the hospital, the transplant office. I asked if my kidney had gone directly to Lena. The nurse hesitated. She said there had been an unusual case note. Apparently, Lena had reassigned the recipient 2 days before the surgery, said it was a relative, a medical emergency. It had gone to someone named Nathaniel Brooks, her ex. I laughed when I heard it, a horrible choked laugh. She didn't just lie, she orchestrated it. She let me think I was saving her life while she handed my organ to the man she used to love. And then she left me. I drove to her apartment the next morning, not to yell, not to beg, just to see her. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, her face went pale. "You found out," she said, voice barely audible. I nodded. She stepped aside, letting me in without a word. The place smelled like fresh paint and lavender candles. There were 2 wine glasses on the table. Only one of them was hers. "I didn't think you'd ever ask," she said, sitting down. "Why?" I asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. "You were a good man, Adrian, but I never stopped loving him." I asked, "So why marry me?" She looked straight into my eyes. "Because you were safe. Safe, not loved, not chosen, just convenient." Then she added, "And he needed the kidney more than I did. His condition was getting worse." My hands shook. "You tricked me into surgery." "No," she said, calm as ever. "I just didn't correct your assumption." I stood there, heart beating like a war drum in my chest, and realized something horrible. She had been planning this for months. She had set the stage, played the part, and waited for the perfect moment. And I, like a fool, had walked straight into it. I left her apartment without another word. I didn't trust myself to speak, didn't trust myself not to scream, not to fall apart. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the surgical scar on my side. I used to wear it with pride, proof of sacrifice, of love. Now it just felt like a brand, a warning, a mistake carved into flesh. I couldn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out the old laptop and dug through files I hadn't touched since the surgery. Emails, insurance documents, hospital correspondence. And something jumped out at me. The consent form. Not the one I signed, but the one she was supposed to. It had 2 names on it, mine and her ex's. They listed him as the secondary recipient in case I wasn't a match for her. But that wasn't what I'd been told. The hospital had explained I was her only chance, that the blood type match was rare. I started to wonder, had they lied to me? Or had she forged that form? I called the hospital the next morning, asked to speak with the transplant coordinator. After several rounds of calls, emails, and verifications, I finally got the truth. She wasn't even the recipient. He was, from the start. They'd switched names on the forms. She used my trust to bypass the ethics board. And because she was legally still my spouse, I never questioned a thing. I gave my kidney to a man I didn't know, a man she never stopped loving. And then she divorced me. I didn't call her, didn't text. I showed up at her workplace. It was petty, it was bold, but it was necessary. She was sitting at the reception desk of her wellness clinic, laughing with a client. When she saw me, her face froze, like she'd seen a ghost. I held up a manila envelope. "Do you know what this is?" I asked calmly. She didn't speak. "It's the paperwork, the transplant file, the consent forms, the email from the coordinator clarifying the real recipient." I watched the color drain from her face. "I gave you my kidney. You gave it to him. Then you gave him my place in your life." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You weren't supposed to find out." My laugh was hollow. That's what you're sorry about? That I found out? She stood up, defensive now. You wouldn't have understood. I was in love with him before you. We were trying to have a future. You were just convenient? I cut her off. Just your fool with a healthy kidney. She didn't deny it. There it was. The truth, raw and brutal. I dropped the folder on the desk. You may have taken something from my body, but you won't take another ounce of my peace. And I walked out. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I didn't fight her for anything. Not the car, not the condo, not even the dog. I just wanted peace. And a fresh start. I started running again. I changed my diet. I volunteered at the same hospital where I'd had the surgery. Turns out, helping others heal was the first step to healing myself. People say scars fade, but not all do. Some stay with you, not as wounds, but as reminders of how deep you were cut and how strong you became while putting yourself back together. One evening, while watching the sun set from my new apartment, I got a letter in the mail from the transplant center. It was a thank you card from another patient, someone still on the wait list. Just a few words scribbled in nervous handwriting. Your sacrifice gave me hope. Thank you for reminding me that people like you still exist. I held that note for a long time, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Because she may have taken my kidney, she may have given it away, but what I gave, who I chose to be, that was mine. Always had been, always would be, and no one, not even her, could take that from me.